Hey friends, Tom
and Sarah,
and we want to bring to you video number 2 in our series of how we went through 3 homesteads in a matter of 7 years. The first 2 being in North Idaho, the third one now being in southern Missouri. There's an owl or a hawk right there. See the hawk?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
That's cool.
That's why she's looking at
Always take a second to observe nature when you see it.
Yeah.
If you ask many homesteaders about why they started homesteading, most of them will have many reasons, which we do also, but most of them will have a key event in their history, in their story, that was a catalyst that that made them take it seriously. For some, that catalyzing event may have been a natural disaster or a big bad thing that happened in their life.
Big snowstorms we've heard of.
Yep.
Windstorm.
Yep.
Earthquakes, any of that stuff.
Yep. For others, it could be the loss of a job or a career drying up and suddenly realizing that they didn't have the security that they thought they did. And then for others, it could be a major health scare where they thought they were doing great, but they had a big thing come up and realized that they needed to start taking their health and their lifestyle much more seriously.
And we've noticed that it seems to be, especially among people who are middle class or lower, like those who do not make tons of money. When they come upon a health crisis that they need to make lifestyle changes, one of the most affordable way to be able to do that is to actually switch over and change and become homesteaders.
Yeah, because it's expensive to buy the healthiest food you can get in the stores. It's really expensive, and you still don't know for sure where it's coming from and what is in it and whether it's really truly good for you to eat.
And all of the cleaning supplies that you have, so many of those you can make on your own.
Yep.
And we know that's why, one of the big reasons why people are also turning to homesteading. So it's more than just the food, although food is one of the main parts.
Yeah. So for us, that catalyzing event was a natural disaster of sorts. It was a huge windstorm that suddenly cropped up in November of 2015, right before Thanksgiving. Sarah got a text from a friend a couple hours before this was supposed to hit our area. We heard this storm was coming, so Sarah yelled out the window to me. I was out back and just informed me that this big storm supposedly was on its way.
A high wind warning is in effect for the region until midnight tonight with up to 70-mile-per-hour winds.
So we kind of took it seriously.
But the weathermen are often wrong.
Yeah.
So-
And we had never, like, I lived through an ice storm when I was younger, but there really weren't that many, like, things like that. Wind in our area really wasn't usually that big of a deal. So I prepared some things outside. I kind of put some things away and kind of, did what I could to keep things from blowing around.
And she suggested maybe making soup or something. So I made soup, which I'm really thankful that I did. So we had that.
Yep.
But it was literally 2 hours beforehand that we were
not a
had
whole
the
lot of
heads
heads up. Yep.
This windstorm came with a vengeance. 70-mile-an-hour winds wreaked havoc on the inland northwest. Downed trees and power lines causing an unknown amount of damage. Some people narrowly escaped the danger.
On this day in 2015, a windstorm pummeled the inland northwest, snapping trees, strewing debris across homes and roads, and knocking out power to hundreds of thousands of people.
Strong winds came through the area, ripped off a lot of roofs, including part of ours.
Yeah.
Hi. And it knocked out power for us. I think it was either 4 or 5 days.
4 days, yeah.
Without power. And I started getting concerned when I was outside and the wind was indeed picking up really strong. And I started seeing shingles flying off of our roof. A whole patch started lifting up and waving in the wind. And at that point I realized, oh shoot, this is actually going to happen to us.
We've been out here at Spokanimal watching this roof behind me just kind of keep peeling further and further back.
When it passed, people began to understand this was just the start of the storm's impact.
So that was an event that we honestly thought we were fairly prepared for.
Yeah, because we had kind of been burdened a few months beforehand to go ahead and start getting some supplies in case of a natural disaster. And so we had one row of some supplies stocked on a shelf. We didn't have a lot of money, and so for us that was a huge deal.
I had 2 generators in the shop. I went out and got the camping generator, and couldn't get it to start. I realized it had been several years since I had run it, and it would not start, and it was a deeper problem than I could deal with at the time. So I turned to the welder generator, and I had some cords and some connections. I thought I had what I needed, but turns out I didn't. And we were on like a rural, kind of a semi-rural irrigation district, so those pumps didn't have power. So that's right, we didn't have water.
And things that you don't think about often when you're planning ahead, thinking of the potentials for an emergency situation. You don't think about if someone's sick, because we had a toddler and a newborn baby, a couple months old. We were all got really, really sick. And so with the house getting colder and colder.
What I turned to next was tricks I had seen on YouTube on how to heat your house or a bedroom using a little tea light candle and a terracotta pot or 2 stacked on top of it. Supposedly, you know, this will warm you up in a matter of 20-30 minutes. You'll have this room nice and toasty, and you'll be golden.
Yeah, that's not true when it's 20 degrees outside.
We tried that in our bedroom, and it took, I think we tried it for a few hours trying to get heat out of this thing. Did not work.
Yeah.
I tried a little toilet paper roll stuffed down into a small, like, quart-sized paint can, and saturate the whole thing with alcohol, rubbing alcohol. That does work for a little makeshift camp stove. It kind of put out some heat for heating that space, but it stunk. It was not, you know, healthy and safe to be in an enclosed room like that. Come the next day, it was so cold, and we realized, number one, we needed to go out and get supplies. So we went to the store. We went to Fred Meyer.
It was the only place open. All the lights were off. The street lights were off in the city.
Yep.
The days that followed were dark and cold. Avista worked around the clock to repair hundreds of damaged lines and restore power to thousands of people.
It is so eerie being out in the middle of a neighborhood and not having a single light other than the one that we are providing.
And most of the places were closed.
Fred Meyer had some kind of a backup system, and so they had minimalistic
at the front of the store.
At the front of the store, but it was dark in the back.
Yeah, everything else was pitch black.
Yep.
So we had to use our lights on our phone.
Yep. I remember we were looking for rubbing alcohol for that little stove thing, and we couldn't find it in the normal area. And then one of us had the idea of, oh, let's check this other area of the store, and they had a few bottles still there, so we got those. But then we went to North 40, got some kerosene and some supplies. I had a little kerosene space heater that I've used before, that type, and they kick out a lot of heat. I had found this thing on a job site that I'd been remodeling, and they let me have it, and I hadn't looked at it in much detail though, and I discovered at this time that it didn't have a wick in it. and so that option was out. I couldn't find a wick locally, especially when most places were closed. So it got really bad, and we ended up having to go camp out at a friend's house a few miles away for the next 2 nights or so.
Which we were so thankful for, because at that point, by the time it got to the second night, it was midnight, and we were talking, and I basically hit, the girls and I are really sick. We are not getting warm. We need to get warm. Something has to change.
Yep.
So we're really thankful for them doing that.
Yeah. All right. So through this event, we realized how we needed to take preparedness way more seriously, and we needed to test our systems, not just trust that stuff was going to work.
Or that you can fix it. You'll have time to fix it.
Or that I would have time to fix it in an emergency, or that we could go get supplies last minute. We realized we needed to have things in place ahead of any disaster or thing like that. So that was the catalyst that started us on our homesteading journey and our desire to become more self-sufficient and learn how to more manage for ourselves. We know that being completely 100% self-sufficient it's kind of a dream, but it's also kind of a delusion. It's really more about community dependence and learning to exist and live within a community of like-minded people who are prepared enough for themselves and can help each other through things like this.
And if you look at history, throughout history, even out west, the miners or the fur trappers, they still came in at least once a year, if not twice a year, to town to buy supplies.
Yeah.
They didn't do everything 100%. And the different tribes around the world, they work with each other. And so they have different people who do different things. It's not one person trying to do everything on their own.
Yeah.
That isn't realistic throughout most cultures around the world. It just isn't.
Yep. One of the major ways that we decided to change our lifestyle at that point was to get a wood stove. In doing research, we discovered that there was a wood stove manufacturer right near us in Rathdrum, Idaho, called Kuma stoves, and they make incredible wood stoves. I am very pleased to tell you that the sponsor for this week's video is Kuma Stoves in Rathdrum, Idaho. Kuma Stoves is a family-owned, family-operated business that has been providing truly handcrafted, high-quality, very efficient wood stoves since 1981. Mark Freeman started the company literally out of the back of his pickup, where he built his first handmade wood stove insert and installed it right into his friend's home. Since then, he just kept getting more and more orders for more wood stoves and inserts, and now they sell some pellet stoves as well. They even have now a wood cook stove, which I am so excited about. It just looks awesome and so versatile. One of the things I most love about their stoves is how they combine burn tube technology and the catalytic combustor technology, so that the smoke from the initial burning of the wood is reburned and converted into heat for your home. So only a minimal amount of particulate matter goes out the chimney, and a maximum amount of it gets converted straight into heat for your home. I also love that they aren't simply a metal box that you build a fire in that just radiates heat. Yes, they radiate heat and do it very well, but they also heat through convection. There's a natural airflow where it draws air in near the back and bottom of the stove and runs it up around the firebox in a double wall. That heated air now naturally flows over the top of the stove and out into your living space without the need for a blower fan. Kuma Stoves doesn't use an assembly line to produce their wood stoves. They literally have craftsmen that make one stove at a time by hand. They start with steel and parts that they have sourced from within the United States. They use heavy gauge steel, and then each craftsman in their workshop assembles one stove at a time by himself, so that in the end you have truly a handmade stove that has been built to the highest of standards and with true pride and workmanship. Each time we were at the Kuma shop there in Rathdrum, I was really impressed by the friendliness of the Freeman family and all the staff there. When they found out that we were moving from Idaho to Missouri, they even gave each of our kids a little laser cut plate in the shape of Idaho. That was a fun way of bringing Idaho with us when we moved down here. If you're in the market for a wood stove, Kuma has dealers literally nationwide throughout the United States. In my mind and in our family's own experience, they are truly one of the leading manufacturers of wood stoves that are high quality and efficient and clean to operate. We absolutely love our Kuma wood stove, and we know that it's going to be heating our home for years to come. When we made the decision to move down here to Missouri from Idaho, we knew this house didn't have a wood stove when we bought it. So we called down here and called all the wood stove dealers we could find to see what kind of a supply they had, what kind of stoves they had. And we found out they almost had nothing. They literally were sold out. Pretty much all they had was their floor models, and that was only a very limited type of stoves.
And they were 9 months. They were 9 months out.
Yeah, they basically said, yeah, you can order one through us, but we have no guarantee. So we contacted Kuma Stoves again and asked them, is there any way we can buy another Tamarack stove? Well, I think we had two weeks or so before we needed to leave. And they ended up getting it to us. I think we were able to go buy one within 1 week. They hold at least at that time, they had a practice of holding back a little bit of their inventory just for their repeat customers in case somebody was in a bind and needed a stove in a hurry.
In their local area.
For their local, repeat customers, which was amazing customer service and care for your community. And so we ended up getting to go up there and pick up a brand new stove, and we loaded it into the U-Haul. It was a very important part of our load that we lovingly carried down here with us, and installed it that winter, and we've been using it ever since to heat our home.
Yeah, it's been nice.
Thank you, Kuma, and Jason specifically for coming through for us, and for just for you guys having that heart for the local people around, and to not just be focused on making a dollar by selling all the stoves as fast as you could, but thinking about that, of having them available for people that needed them in a pinch, because we did, and we really appreciated it. So a question we have for you is, what was your catalyzing event that triggered your mind into getting serious about homesteading or taking self-sufficiency serious enough to make major strides toward that? Whether you went and bought property, whether you got a wood stove like we did, whether you started actually stocking your shelves with an emergency amount of food,
or baking bread,
a decent amount of food. Grinding your own grain, baking your own bread. What was it? What was that event, that story that got you motivated to actually make it happen? We'd love to hear those in the comments below. If you're not subscribed yet, this is just the beginning. This is the second video in this new series, and we'd love to have you join us. If you click the notification bell, you will be notified when our new episodes come out, so you can see them and not miss those new videos. Make sure and check out the first video in this series where we introduced and gave a broad overview of the different properties we've been on. We can't wait to read your comments below, and we'll see you on the next video.
Bye.
Take care.
Oh, the summer time is coming, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pluck wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie?